For millennia, humanity has looked to the heavens, asking questions that transcend time. Questions about our origins, our place in the universe, and the nature of a higher power. In this exploration, we journey through creation, belief, and the human search for meaning. So, let's start with the most familiar story of creation. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. But the earth was so dark that He created light to separate it from the darkness. On the second day, He created the sky. On the third, He gathered the water into one place, forming the land, and brought forth all the plants and trees. Day 4 saw the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. On the fifth day, all the creatures in the sea and sky came to be. And finally, on the sixth day, God created the animals and us, humans. This story of creation, though ancient to us, is relatively new in the grand scope of human history. And here's something to think about. The Earth is around 4.5 billion years old. But why would God wait that long to create it? What was He doing before that? And why didn't He do it earlier? These questions, surprisingly, remain unanswered. However, there's another version of this story, without the divine narrative. Earth formed over billions of years through a process called accretion. Initially, it was the volcanic outgassing that has helped form an atmosphere. And as the planet cooled, eventually water appeared. This allowed the life to develop in the oceans, and eventually plants, animals, and basically the life emerged. Yes, this version is more complicated, but doesn't life itself demand complexity? Yet even within this scientific account, questions persist. Why did life evolve the way it did? And why do humans, out of all species, have the capacity for self-awareness? These questions lead us back to the same fundamental mystery. Is there a purpose behind it all? And if so, what defines that purpose? For the sake of argument, let's assume God is a human invention. Humans have always worshipped God-like figures, from stones and trees to invisible spirits. When early humans began developing self-awareness, they likely turned to nature for answers. And over time, these natural phenomena became the gods of our ancestors. Each culture, each person, saw God through the lens of their circumstances, leading to an incredible diversity of beliefs. As time passed and more mysteries were unraveled, the concept of a single, monotheistic God began to take shape. Here's the tricky part. If humans have worshipped nearly everything imaginable, how can we know which God, if any, is real? Is there one God? Or many? Or all gods simply manifestations of the same thing? These questions lead us in circles with no clear answers. Could the multiplicity of gods throughout human history be interpreted as different facets of the same ultimate truth? Or are they merely projections of human needs, fears, and desires? The freedom to define God is often seen as a personal right. But our words carry meaning shaped by the limits of language. Most would define God as omnipotent, the creator and ruler of the universe. But what if God is just our knowledge and the devil our intuition? What if both are true, depending on what we believe? Religious texts often point us in this direction. In the Bible, Satan represents negative thoughts, while God symbolizes positive ones. In Hinduism, the Vedas describe Paramatma, the highest power, not as a person, but as a state of consciousness. Whether these texts are true or not, they suggest that God resides in our thoughts. Some may interpret this to mean God controls our thoughts, but if that's the case, why doesn't God intervene in catastrophic events? How does omnipotence reconcile with inaction? This brings us to the classic philosophical question: if God is omnipotent and all-loving, why does suffering exist? Theodicy, or the problem of evil, challenges the very core of monotheistic belief. Some argue that suffering is necessary for growth, that without hardship, we could not appreciate joy. Is this truly a satisfactory answer? And if God allows suffering, does that mean free will exists within a framework that God ultimately controls? In a way, belief in God functions like a powerful drug. It gives us purpose, providing meaning where there might be none. Despite scientific advances, many cling to the idea of God out of fear or existential angst. The philosopher Nietzsche's warned that without God, life might seem meaningless, a path to nihilism. But now we live in a world where moral frameworks no longer require divine justification. Morality, ethics, and values are increasingly understood through human experience, rationality, and empathy independent of divine command. Even so, the psychological comfort God offers is undeniable. In times of desperation, God is a motivator, perhaps the greatest one. For the hopeless, God is a refuge second only to love. But reliance on illusions has its own price. If we accept God's truths without question, we risk becoming passive, resigned to a life dictated by forces outside ourselves. And there is a profound danger in that passivity. It can prevent us from taking responsibility for our actions, for the state of the world. If all is part of God's plan, what incentive do we have to fight injustice or confront suffering head-on? Blind faith, without critical thought, creates a certain numbness to reality, or willingness to accept things as they are rather than striving for change. So if God exists, I imagine my life would be simpler. But until that revelation comes, while the theist longs for divine intervention, I will lean on the randomness of the universe. But the difference is that, in randomness, I won't be disappointed.